The Alaska Eviction Notice. What is an eviction notice? Eviction notice, or notice to quit, is a letter sent by the landlord to the tenant notifying them that they should either take or stop a certain action or vacate the rented premises. Eviction notice can be of two types. Conditional, when a tenant is given time to remedy the breach of the lease, or unconditional, when a landlord terminates the lease without any alternative options for a tenant. What should an eviction notice include? Information about the tenant and the landlord. The reason for sending the notice. The date by which the tenant should take or stop a certain action. The consequences of non-compliance. The date and way of notice delivery and the landlord's signature in the form of certificate of service attached to the notice. How to evict a tenant in Alaska. The non-payment notice. If the tenant fails to pay rent due, the landlord should give them a notice to either pay or quit before terminating the lease. Termination can come into effect in no less than 7 days after the tenant gets the notice. Non-compliance notice. If the tenant brings significant damage to the rental property, the landlord might give them a 24-hour notice to quit. Or if they commit illegal acts, the landlord has to give at least a 5-day notice before termination of the contract. If there is any other breach of the lease, the tenant should be served with a 10-day conditional notice. What if the tenant fails to comply? If the tenant fails to pay rent due and associated fees or remedy the violation, the landlord has the right to file an eviction lawsuit with an Alaska District or Superior Court, depending on the value of the past due rent and amount of damage to the property. The filing fee is either $150 or $250 depending on the court. Then, the tenant must be served with a notice about the lawsuit by a process server at least 2 days before the hearing date. The tenant will have 20 days to file an answer with the court. If the tenant does not file an answer or attend the hearing, or if the landlord wins the case through the eviction hearing, the court will issue a writ of execution. There will be a court-ordered deadline by which the tenant has to move out on their own before the local sheriff will forcibly remove them.